The morning sun scorched Lagos with its usual fury, casting sharp shadows across the bustling streets. Amara Okafor, dressed in a faded office blouse and second-hand flats, darted between impatient Danfos and roaring Kiki Napeps. She was late, again, and of all days, it had to be the day her supervisor threatened to report any more tardiness to HR. As she approached the pedestrian crossing near Freedom Square, her shoulder bag slipped off, scattering old receipts, coins, and a half-eaten meat pie onto the dusty roadside. She crouched, frantically gathering her items. That's when it happened. A silver Toyota Camry, clearly borrowed from someone more careful, screeched and bumped into the curb, narrowly missing her. Amara lost her balance and tumbled backward, landing hard on her elbow. The car door swung open. "You okay?" a deep male voice asked. She looked up to find a tall, handsome young man with an infuriatingly calm expression staring down at her. His hair was tousled, shirt slightly wrinkled, and he wore the expression of someone who hadn't had to rush for anything in years. "Are you driving with your eyes closed?" Amara barked, standing up, brushing dust from her skirt. "You almost killed me." "I barely tapped the curb," the man said, checking his front bumper. "Besides, you're lying on the ground trying to extort." "Excuse me." Extort? A small crowd had already gathered. Lagosians loved a good drama. "I borrowed this car," he continued, unfazed. "You scratched it. You'll have to pay." Amara's jaw dropped. "Pay? Are you mad? I should be the one suing you." "But you didn't," he said, cocking his head, that maddening smirk still painted on his face. "You're a grown woman fighting me over a scratch?" Amara folded her arms. "And what's this borrowed car even worth? 2 pairs of shoes and a handbag." He grinned. "Want me to buy you a new car instead?" She almost slapped him. Before she could respond, her phone buzzed. 9:04 a.m. She was officially late. "I don't have time for this nonsense," she snapped, turning to leave. "I have work to do." "Hit and run," the man called after her. "You think you could just walk away?" She ignored him, but just as she crossed the road, she glanced back. He was still watching her, that amused smirk never leaving his face. By 10 a.m., Amara was sitting stiffly in the HR briefing room at Tech Conglomerate, trying to avoid eye contact with anyone. Her shirt clung to her back with sweat, and her stomach growled softly. She didn't even have time to eat after the street confrontation. When her name was finally called for reassignment orientation, she walked in and nearly dropped her file. There he was, the same annoying man from earlier, now seated calmly in a black office chair, flipping through an employee handbook. He looked up and grinned. "Amara Okafor, right? We meet again." "You." HR frowned. "Miss Okafor, is something wrong?" She swallowed. "Nothing." "Good." The HR manager smiled. "This is Chisholm Ease, our newest management trainee. You'll be working under the same supervisor." Amara blinked in disbelief. This couldn't be happening. Chisholm gave her a polite nod. "Let's get along, shall we?" Their first week under Supervisor Obina Anya, a strict but fair manager in the marketing division, was tense. Amara kept her head down, ignoring Chisholm's attempts at casual banter. But everyone else noticed the chemistry and the bickering. On Thursday, as they filed out after a long presentation, Chisholm caught up to her at the elevator. "You still mad I offered you a car?" She didn't answer. He leaned closer. "You know, I wasn't joking. I could have bought you 2. One for weekdays and one for Sundays." She rolled her eyes. "Let me guess. You're one of those guys with a rich uncle who thinks jokes are the same as charm." Chisholm grinned. "Not rich. Just generous." The elevator dinged. As the doors opened, Amara stepped in and faced forward. Then Chisholm whispered, "So, what model of car would impress you?" She turned to him slowly. "Try being honest. That would be a good model to start with." Before he could respond, Supervisor Obina's voice boomed from the hallway. "Chisholm, I need that analytics brief by tomorrow morning." "Yes, sir." The elevator closed. Amara smirked slightly. So the arrogant pretty boy had homework too. That evening, as Amara walked toward the bus stop, She saw Chisholm standing beside a Kiki, holding a jollof rice takeaway container. He handed it to her without a word. "What's this?" "Plantain and rice. From the cafeteria. You skip lunch." Amara stared at it. "I don't need your pity food." "It's not pity. Just peace offering." She sighed and accepted it. "Thanks. Chisholm." He nodded. Then he turned to walk away but paused. "By the way, you're stronger than you look. Most people wouldn't have stood up to me that day. Maybe you needed someone to do it," she said. He smiled. "Maybe I did." As he walked off into the Lagos dusk, Amara held the warm container a little tighter. She wasn't sure who he really was. But one thing was clear. He was trouble. And somehow, trouble had just joined her team. The following Monday, the Yugo Tech office buzzed with energy. A new campaign was launching, and everyone in the marketing department was scrambling like chickens chased by rain. Amara Okafor, however, had more immediate concerns, like her worn-out flats, which had just developed a second hole on the left toe. She stared at them during lunch break, sighing. "You survived NYSC, 3 interviews, and 1 pothole in Adjugunal. I guess you've done enough." She was scrolling through online thrift stores when a voice startled her. "Planning a fashion overhaul?" She looked up. Chisholm E. stood over her desk, a mischievous glint in his eyes, holding a bottle of malt and a meat pie. "What do you want?" she asked, not unkindly. "Lunch. And maybe to take you shopping." Amara blinked. "You're not serious." "I am. I overheard you saying you need clothes. I know a place. Affordable local designers. Nothing fancy." She raised an eyebrow. "Let me guess. Another showroom in Banana Island?" He laughed. "This one's actually normal. Trust me." Amara hesitated, then shrugged. "Fine, but I'm paying for mine." Chisholm grinned. "Deal. But if you faint from sticker shock, I'll pretend we're strangers." An hour later, they were walking through a dewy street, a busy fashion alley in Surreal lined with small boutique stores and sidewalk vendors. Colorful Ankara gowns, smart two-pieces, and minimalist dresses were displayed under dusty awnings. Surprisingly, it wasn't expensive. "This entire street belongs to my father's company," Chisholm said casually. Amara froze. "Sorry." He looked at her, then laughed. "I'm kidding. Just wanted to see your reaction." "You're impossible. You say that like it's a bad thing." A stylish older woman in a lace wrapper greeted them at one of the shops. "Come in, my daughter. I've been waiting for someone with your figure." Amara tried on a peach blouse and a navy high waistskirt. As she stepped out, Chisholm nearly dropped his phone. "That suits you really well." She blushed but played it off. "I won't try the other 2. How much are they?" "Nigerian Naira 300 for everything," the shopkeeper smiled. Amara hesitated. She had 4,000 Nigerian Nairas to her name. Nigerian Naira 200 earmarked for transport, and 1,000 Nigerian Nairas for her younger brother's medicine. "I can handle it," she whispered more to herself than anyone else. But Chisholm had already stepped forward and paid in cash. "I told you not to," she said, scowling. "Then pay me back when you get your salary. It's not a big deal." "I'm not a charity case, Chisholm." "I didn't say you were." He held up his hands. "But you're my teammate. Consider an investment." She glared at him. "Then let me return the favor. Dinner. My treat." Chisholm blinked. "Really? Don't get excited. It'll be Accra and pap if you're lucky." "I like Accra," he grinned. They ended up at a quiet buka, nestled behind the central market, a place Amara used to visit during her internship days. She ordered yam porridge with goat meat, while Chisholm, amused and unbothered, opted for beans and fried plantain. "So, Mr. Intern, what's your story?" Amara asked as they sat. "I told you. Management trainee." "Lies." He looked at her, smirking. "I'm just a guy trying to figure himself out." "You?" She shrugged. "Middle child. Graduate. Took care of my siblings while our mums sold roasted corn in mile 2. Got this job after 6 interviews." Chisholm's smile faded into something more serious. "That's impressive." She gave him a sidelong glance. You ever worked a real job before this? He looked away. Sort of. Just then, his phone rang. The name on the screen, Chief Ease. He declined the call immediately. Amara squinted. Was that your dad? Yeah, but don't worry. He's just checking if I've signed off on some contract. She stared at him. You sign off contracts? Yeah, for fun. You know, hobby stuff. She narrowed her eyes. Who are you, really? Chisholm smiled but didn't answer. After dinner, they walked in silence toward the main road. Streetlights flickered above, and the scent of roasted suya filled the air. You're hard to figure out, Amara said suddenly. I prefer that way. Why? Because people don't care about who you are. They care about what you have. She looked at him, surprised by the bitterness in his tone. Is that why you hide things? She asked. He met her gaze. Maybe I just want someone to like me without the price tag. They stopped at the bus park. You really think someone would like you if you didn't have anything? He shrugged. You tell me. Amara smiled faintly. We'll see. The next morning, the office was abuzz. Rumors flew about a new board announcement and a surprise leadership shuffle. Amara settled at her desk, noticing her name was no longer on her regular task list. She was confused. Then, a group of interns walked past, whispering excitedly. He's the son of Chief Ease. You didn't know? That Chisholm guy. They say he's an Exio. Amara sat up straight. No, it couldn't be. But as she turned toward the far glass office, she saw something that made her heart drop. Chisholm was standing beside Chief Yudichiku Ease himself, smiling, shaking hands with the board, nodding like someone used command. Amara's stomach twisted. He wasn't just some intern. He was the heir, and he had lied to her. The office hallway was unusually quiet for a Wednesday morning. Amara Okafor stood outside the boardroom, her arms crossed, a bitter taste in her mouth. Inside, laughter echoed deep, cultured voices, followed by the smooth baritone she now recognized too well. Chisholm Ease. She had avoided him since the reveal, avoided the lunchroom, avoided meetings, even pretended to be sick during the weekly project review. She didn't know what hurt more, that he had lied to her or that he had made her feel special while doing it. She turned sharply, nearly bumping into Zainab Muhammad. Watch it! Zainab snapped, adjusting her flashy red blazer, always rushing like a market woman. Amara raised an eyebrow. And you always dressing like you're headed to a reality show audition. Zainab sneered. Don't act smart. Amara, we all know what you're doing. Amara tilted her head. And what's that? Using your cheap face and tragic backstory to flirt your way to the top. A few other junior staff paused nearby, sensing a scene. Amara's heart raced, but she kept her tone even. I work for what I earn. Unlike you, whose biggest achievement is licking boots in the artist department. Zainab's face twisted with rage. You think sleeping with the boss's son makes you better than us? Amara's jaw clenched. Don't you dare. I dare because unlike you, I don't. Slap. The sound echoed to the hallway like a thunderclap. Everyone gasped. Zainab stood stunned, one hand on her reddening cheek. Amara didn't flinch. You will not speak about me like that again. From behind them, someone cleared his throat. They turned to see Chisholm standing a few feet away, hands in his pockets, expression unreadable. Is there a problem? He asked quietly. Zainab quickly straightened, forcing a tear into her eye. She assaulted me. Chisholm looked at Amara. She stared back defiantly. She provoked me, she said. I have nothing to hide. Chisholm stepped forward. Zainab, I suggest you go apply ice to your ego. And if I hear of any more harassment in this office, HR will be involved. Do I make myself clear? Zainab blinked, speechless, then stormed off in humiliated silence. The small crowd dispersed awkwardly. Amara turned to leave, but Chisholm blocked her path gently. Can we talk? Now you want to talk? She said coldly. In private. She sighed, then followed him into the nearest vacant meeting room. Inside, he closed the door. You've been avoiding me. No, I've been avoiding your lies. Chisholm nodded slowly. Fair. She folded her arms. So what you? CO in waiting? Spy? Test of morality? My father asked me to spend time with the regular staff. Said I needed to understand real struggle, real loyalty. So I was your test subject. No, he said quickly. You were the surprise. She swallowed hard. Do you know how humiliating it feels to think someone actually saw you, only to find out they were watching you from a throne? I didn't mean to deceive you, Amara. You did. Chisholm looked down. I just wanted someone to like me without knowing my name, my power. She stepped back. Well, congratulations. Now everyone knows. He looked at her again, softer this time. And you still looked me in the eye after. That's why I respect you. There was a long silence. Then she said, respect doesn't fix what's broken. And she walked out. By noon, whispers circled like vultures. News of the slap, Chisholm's hidden identity, and Amara's fire response had turned the office into a real-life soap opera. Upstairs, in the executive wing, Mr. Anya called Amara into his office. She sat stiffly as he closed the blinds. You're under review for misconduct, he said bluntly. But between you and me, he paused. That slap? I wanted to deliver myself for 3 years. Amara stifled a laugh. Don't relax yet. Obina warned. You'll be suspended for a week. Her smile faded. Sir, I need this job. Which is why you'll keep it. But you need to disappear for a bit. Let things cool. She nodded. Understood. As she turned to leave, Obina added, not everyone gets the chairman's attention, you know. She turned back slowly. Chief Ease, Obina said, asked to meet you. That afternoon, Amara was escorted into a sleek lounge at the top of Yugo Tech Tower. The walls were lined with abstract art, the kind that looked like someone spilled paint on purpose. In the center sat Chief Yudichiku Ease, powerful, poised, sipping Zobo from a crystal glass. You must be Amara, he said, gesturing to a seat. She sat nervously. Yes, sir. I've heard a lot about you. She swallowed. I'm sorry for the trouble. I didn't bring you here to scold you. She looked up in surprise. He leaned forward. You slapped someone for insulting your dignity. That's not weakness. That's fire. Amara blinked. You remind me of my wife, he said. She once slapped a board member during a budget meeting. He never forgot. Amara chuckled nervously. Chief Ease's expression softened. I watched Chisholm flounder for years. Never knew where to put his loyalty. Until now. She said nothing. You're not just talented, Amara. You're principled. And that's rare in this industry. What do you want from me, sir? I want you to stay. When you return from your suspension, I'll assign you to a new role, one that'll test your leadership. She frowned. Why me? Because loyalty isn't shown when things are easy. It's revealed in fire. He stood and extended a hand. Do we have a deal? Amara stood, hesitated, then shook it. 3 days later, Amara returned to the office, dressed in a sharp teal suit she borrowed from her older sister. As she stepped into the main lobby, she froze. A banner hung from the mezzanine. Yugo Tech welcomes interim CEO, Mr. Chisholm Ease. Her breath caught. She barely had time to process when someone approached with a sealed envelope. For you, the HR assistant said. She opened it slowly. Promotion offer, Vice President, Talent Strategy. Effective immediately. Her hands trembled. Before she could speak, the assistant added, he said to tell you, let's change this company together. Amara Okafor sat quietly at the head of her new glass desk on the 9th floor of Yugo Tech Tower. The view overlooked Lagos Island, sailing boats in the distance, hawkers weaving between crawling traffic. The city alive with ambition. She should have felt proud. Instead, she felt like she was standing on a wire. Her promotion to vice president had caused an uproar. Colleagues congratulated her, with wide smiles and narrowed eyes. Her inbox overflowed with fake kindness and subtle threats disguised as advice. You climb too fast, one message read. Hope you know how to land when you fall. Read another. Only Mr. Anya offered words of value. Amara, he said during a short elevator ride, this industry respects only 2 things, Results and resilience. If you can deliver both, they'll forget how fast you rose. She nodded, but his next word stayed with her. Trust character, not circumstance. By Wednesday afternoon, the pressure was tightening. Her team needed to finalize a talent recruitment strategy for Yugo Teka's next film slate, 20 upcoming titles across Nigeria and Ghana. She worked late every night, learning contracts, spotting gaps in artist protections, streamlining onboarding. For every win, there were whispers. She's Chisholm's pet. She seduced her way in. She slapped her way to the top. Amara ignored them, until one whisper became a headline. Breaking. Yugo Tech VP allegedly involved in scandalous relationship with interim CEO. Attached was a blurred photo of her and Chisholm exiting the buka, laughing. A doctored image followed, her hand supposedly on his chest. The caption was worse. From poverty to power, Amara Okafor's shortcut to success. Amara's phone rang endlessly. Her younger sister cried. Her church group chat was flooded with silent exits. Her chest tightened. She ran to the restroom and locked the stall. 10 minutes later, she heard a knock. "It's me," said a familiar voice. She opened the door. Chisholm stood there, holding a wet towel. "You okay?" Amara didn't answer. He offered the towel. "I've spoken to legal. We'll find out who leaked it and sue." She stared at him. "Don't pretend you're surprised." "I'm not, but I'm angry." "Why?" "Because your project girl messed up your PR." His jaw tightened. "You're not my project." "Then what am I?" she demanded. Chisholm took a breath. "You're the one person I wanted to do this right with." She blinked. He continued. "I messed up. I should have told you who I was from day one, but I was scared you'd look at me like everyone else does. Well, now you know how I look at liars." He flinched. Then he said quietly, "I'm stepping down." "What?" "My father's restructuring Yugo Tech anyway. I've decided to leave the executive track. Travel. Do something that doesn't make me feel like a fraud." Amara stared. "You're running." "No, I'm regrouping." She crossed her arms. "And me?" Chisholm gave a faint smile. "You'll be just fine." Then he walked out. The next day, Amara arrived at work to find her desk moved, not to the VP wing, but 2 floors higher. The office was double the size, with a panoramic view and a placard. Chief Strategy Officer, Amara Okafor. Confused, she rushed to HR. They handed her a sealed envelope. Inside was a hand-signed letter from Chief Yuta Chukwueze. "Dear Amara, you've earned more than title. You've earned my trust. I have stepped aside from day-to-day operations. The board is watching, and you are the face of Yugo Teka's future. My son has his path. Now walk yours. Chief Ease." Tears stung her eyes, but the moment didn't last. Minutes later, she received security alert. Unauthorized access to her personnel file. She traced it, Zainab Muhammad. Enraged, Amara stormed into the artist department. Zainab was seated at a vanity mirror, adjusting fake lashes. "So you try to ruin me again?" Amara asked coldly. Zainab jumped. "Were you? I know you leaked that photo. And now you're digging through my records, hoping to find something to blackmail me with." "I didn't." "Save it. You're suspended. Effective immediately." Zainab stood, trembling. "You can't do that." "I can." Amara snapped. "And I did." Zainab's eyes filled. "It was Ngozi. She made me do it. She's jealous you replace her ex." Amara's heart sank. "Of course. Ngozi Uma, Chisholm's ex-wife." She turned away, whispering, "This place is a jungle." That evening, as the sky turned gold over Lagos, Amara sat alone in the executive lounge, watching the sun dip into the lagoon. Her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "Meet me downstairs. Bring no one." She hesitated, then grabbed her purse and descended the stairs. Outside, beside a black Prado SUV, stood Chief Ease in a white caftan. "Evening, my dear," he said. "You sent a message?" He nodded. "I needed to speak with you directly. No assistants. No board members. Amara waited. Then he dropped the bombshell. Chisholm isn't my biological son. Her knees weakened slightly. Chief Ease continued. He was abandoned as a child during a robbery outside Port Harcourt. I found him bleeding beside his dead mother. He was 8, bright, fierce. I raised him in secret. Amara's heart pounded. I gave him my name, my wealth, my company, but I never gave him peace. Why are you telling me this? She asked, voice shaking. Because he trusts you. And I think you're the only one who sees him beyond the inheritance. Amara looked at him. Does he know? He found out last year. She covered her mouth. That's why he doubts himself. Chief Ease nodded. Make sure he knows he's more than what I gave him. Then he got into his SUV and drove off into the night. Back in her apartment, Amara couldn't sleep. She tossed and turned until finally, she got up and grabbed her phone. She typed, I know everything, and I'm still here. Let me in. She stared at the message and hit send. For the first time in weeks, Chisholm Ease sat in his own apartment. Silent, bare, and far removed from the glittering towers of Tech. The sleek shelves were still filled with unopened books and unused designer gadgets, all gift from a life of privilege. Yet none of it felt like it belonged to him. He had ignored Amara's message at first. The words, I know everything, and I'm still here. Let me in, sat quietly in his inbox, glowing like an invitation to redemption or ruin. By morning, he replied, then meet me at the studio. 11 a.m. You'll know why. The soundstage at Tech Studios buzzed with lights, set crews, and the scent of fried puff-puff wafting from a vendor outside. Amara walked in, wearing a sharp navy pantsuit and red lipstick that told the world she didn't come to play. She found Chisholm standing beside a mock set for their upcoming series, an apartment scene ironically dressed like his real one. You wanted me here? She said. Chisholm turned slowly. I did. Without warning, he held out a folder. Inside were 2 signed legal documents. One was his formal withdrawal from the CEO candidacy. The second, her confirmation as executive director of Tech's newly merged strategy and talent division. You're giving it up? She asked. I never really wanted it, he said. The company, the money, it always felt like armor. But you wear leadership like skin. Amara studied him. And what do you want, Chisholm? He hesitated. Peace, purpose, and maybe you. She blinked, caught between rage and emotion. You lied to me. I did. You were behind the title. I did that too. Then why do I want to trust you again? Chisholm stepped closer. Because despite everything, I never lied about how I felt. For a moment, the air between them held still. Then Amara asked, Are you proposing? No, he said softly. I'm surrendering. She smiled faintly. Then let's start with coffee. Before you start handing me property deeds again. That afternoon, Tech launched their biggest artist strategy campaign yet. Amara was front and center, flanked by media execs, new talents, and old foes, including Ngozi Uma, now fully exposed for leaking the smear article. She had been demoted to an external consultant. Amara handled the event with poise. When asked how she felt about her promotion, she replied, Hard work builds legacy. Gossip only builds noise. The statement went viral within hours. Back in the boardroom, while reviewing final numbers, Chisholm leaned in and whispered to her, You're incredible, you know that? She raised an eyebrow. Tell me something I don't know. All right, he said, half grinning. I'm adopted. She paused, looking him dead in the eye. I know. His lips parted slightly. You do. Your father told me, she said. And you're wrong if you think that makes you less worthy. You're more, because you chose to carry the name and the burden. Chisholm didn't speak for a long time. He just looked at her, as though seeing her again for the first time. Days passed, and Tech blossomed under Amara's leadership. They signed 4 major Nollywood names, expanded into Francophone markets, and even launched a creative training boot camp for underprivileged youth. But just as the tide seemed steady, a new storm hit. Amara's younger brother, Chuka, failed to return home after a tutoring job. Hours passed. Then a call came, unknown number. Her heart pounded as she answered. A voice muffled and arrogant. Nigeria Naira 20 million. Or your brother gets buried in shallow sand. Then silence. Amara staggered backward. Chisholm grabbed the phone. Who was that? Tears welled in her eyes. They've taken Chuka. Chisholm's face darkened. Do not call the police. Why? Because this isn't random. It's Shangoba Holdings. Her eyes widened. Our rival company? They've been trying to poach our artists. When they couldn't, they chose to target you. Amara's knees buckled. What do? Chisholm pulled out his phone. We go get him, but I won't involve security. I'll handle it myself. You! Chisholm's expression hardened. There's a side of me you don't know. Before I was a chairman's son, I survived in places your brother's kidnappers wouldn't dare walk through. By midnight, they arrived at a warehouse on the outskirts of the city. Chuka was inside, bound and gagged. 3 men stood watch, armed with machetes and cheap arrogance. Chisholm walked in alone, hands raised. Easy. I came to talk. One thug scoffed. Talk is expensive here. You don't want to make me angry, Chisholm said calmly. Who are you supposed to be? James Bond? No, just a future you should have feared. Suddenly, the door burst open. Tech security, coordinated and silent. Within seconds, the thugs were restrained and Chuka was freed. As Amara hugged her brother, sobbing, she turned to Chisholm. He was bleeding from a deep gash across his shoulder. You're hurt. He shrugged weakly. Just a scratch. She cupped his face. You idiot. I told you I wanted peace, he whispered. But for you, I'll fight any war. 2 days later, the company hosted its annual Founders Gala at the Eco Convention Center. Guests in glittering gowns and igbadas sipped champagne beneath chandeliers, unaware of the chaos that nearly stole their leaders away. As Amara entered the hall, all eyes turned to her, not because of her emerald gown or the security guards flanking her, but because Chief Ease had just taken the stage. Tonight, he said, I step back fully from Tech. Gasps filled the room. And I name my successor. He turned slowly. Not my son, but someone with fire, heart, and vision. The one who has built, protected, and elevated this company from within. He extended his hand toward Amara. Amara Okafor. Silence. Then thunderous applause. She stood frozen. Chisholm stepped beside her. Go on. You earned this. She looked at him. But it's yours. He smiled. No, it was never mine. I was just holding it until the right hands arrived. As she stepped up the stage, the applause roared louder. But it wasn't the title that brought tears to her eyes. It was a man watching from the crowd, wounded, proud, and smiling as though he had just found his home. The gala lights still sparkled like stars above Eco Convention Center, but Amara stood outside under the moonlit sky, the Lagos breeze lifting her curls as she breathed in deeply. Inside, her name echoed, Amara Okafor, Executive Director of Tech. But out here, it felt quieter, realer. Chisholm found her near the fountain, holding a glass of water instead of champagne. Escaping the spotlight? He asked. She turned to him slowly, then smiled. I'm still getting used to the idea that it's mine now. It always was, he said gently. She looked at him. You're stepping away. For real this time? He nodded. I'm starting something smaller. A mentorship project. For kids like I was. That's big. No, it's just right. They stood in silence for a moment, the city murmuring around them. Then she said, I hated you. I know. I mean really hated you. Chisholm chuckled. I hated me too. She glanced up at him. But I also missed you. Every time something went right, I wanted to tell you first. I was waiting for you to tell me. And now, he took her hand. Now, I just want to live the rest of my life beside the woman who slapped her way into my heart. She burst into laughter. Please, don't make that a quote in a magazine. Too late. Already submitted it to Bellanija. A week later, Tech Foundation Initiative launched its first youth talent camp. Amara gave a keynote speech that trended on social media under #RealPower. Chuka joined the tech training program, his abduction now a story of survival and strength. Amara's family was moved into a better home courtesy of a quiet transfer from Chisholm, which she discovered, and scolded him for, before hugging him tightly. As they walked into a strategy meeting one morning, Amara found a velvet box on her desk. She opened it to find a vintage wristwatch and a handwritten note. Time is the one thing I can't control, but I can promise you every second of mine. See. Her hands trembled, but her heart was steady. She knew this was no longer a game. This was legacy in motion. One Saturday evening, rain began to pour over Lagos like a blessing. The city slowed. Cars pulled over. Umbrellas bloomed on the street like flowers. Amara and Chisholm stood in the middle of an empty rooftop, soaked, laughing as thunder rolled in the distance. "I'm not wearing waterproof makeup," she yelled. "You look better ruined," he teased. "Don't tempt me to slap you again." "Please do. I've missed it." They laughed harder, and then his hand found hers. No drama, no fanfare, just skin against skin in the middle of the storm. Chisholm suddenly dropped to one knee. Her heart skipped. "What are you doing?" she asked, the rain dancing in her lashes. He pulled out a key, not to a mansion or car, but to the new creative space they'd been building together. "I already know you don't want diamonds or fairy tales. So here's the key to our next chapter. Not because I want to own you, but because I can't imagine building anything without you." Amara stared down at him, lips parting. "I thought you'd never ask," she said. He stood and kissed her, rain and all, and for once, no cameras, no headlines, no noise. Just them. Months later, at Yugo Tech's annual press conference, Chief Ease took the stage as guest of honor. "Today, I no longer speak as chairman. I speak as a father, by blood or by bond, and as a believer in destiny." He paused. "What this company has become under Amara Okafor is beyond anything I ever envisioned. It is a reminder that greatness does not always arrive in a suit. Sometimes it walks in wearing dusty flats and carrying a dream." The crowd rose in applause. Amara stood beside Chisholm, both dressed in matching blue attires, regal but real. As she addressed the room, she said simply, "Power means nothing if you don't use it to lift others. And love? That's the greatest leadership lesson I've ever learned." She turned to Chisholm. "And to the man who lied to me, followed me, fought for me, and finally stood beside me, not as an heir, but as a partner, thank you." Tears shimmered in his eyes. After the cameras cut, Chisholm leaned in. "I have one more surprise." She asked. "I gave your name to the new youth center downtown." She blinked. "Why?" "Because you taught me that building an empire means nothing if you don't change lives." She smiled and whispered, "Then let's keep changing lives. Together." And with that, the crowd outside the conference center cheered again. Not for a company or a title, but for a love story no scandal could bury, and a legacy no lie could undo.